All right. Well, today's talk is, I don't know how it'll be listed on YouTube, but something like sitting like a mountain, breathing like a swinging door. I need to look at this. Yeah. And actually, uh, there's a little bonus new poem written this morning that if you want the notes, you can get the poem too. It won't be in the Monday thing. Another poem's going there, but this is a new poem. So if you want that or any of the other information we're talking about, I'll give you one line from the poem, the most important line. Uh, but if you'd like that, just send me a email and just put notes in it, and I'll send you the notes for today. Okay, so sit like a mountain, breathe like a swinging door. We're in an incredible kind of morphic field now. I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't already know. There's just terrific amount of tension, uh, fear, excitement. I mean, it's just a kind of emotional hurricane right now. Every 4 years lately, every 4 years we seem to go through this, including worries about whether the election will even be over on election night. I doubt that very much. So really, I'm really trying to do special things that can deal with that today. And today we're going to focus on sit like a mountain, which really goes back to the last talk where I talked about let stillness be your guide during this time. And it's both physical stillness, but certainly mental stillness, certain a sense of centeredness that sitting in meditation can give you. Like constant one note that I play with all the variations on it is that it's in your benefit to get a daily period of meditation. I think it's a benefit to show up once a week and have a sitting with a group like this. But the other 6 days, this is a period where that will really benefit you. In the last poem, Let Stillness Be Your Guide, the final line was a mountain's stillness leads to the silent land of the witness. So I just want to link, I always like to link back to where we were a week ago. A mountain's stillness leads to the silent land of the witness. To learn how to sit like a mountain with physical stillness is the start. So, you see that with the Buddha sitting there cross-legged usually, and we're doing it now. Where if you can during all three of the things, try to sit poised and still, as still as a mountain. Mountains breathe, by the way. You talk to geologists, they'll tell you that. And mountains are changing all the time. They're just so friggin' huge, that it looks like they remain the same. But no, mountains are breathing. Everything is breathing on this planet. The whole planet is breathing. And we're going to focus more on breathing like a swinging door. But a mountain stillness leads to the silent land of the witness. And as somebody mentioned in one of the comments in the last week in the community section, somebody said what they really took away from I think it was Sharon who mentioned this. What she took away from the talk was that you always have a choice in this moment. You can be a victim or a witness. I think that was one of the most important parts of that of the let stillness be your guide. If you can get still enough, and that doesn't just mean physical stillness, but it starts with how you sit, of course, physically, your posture, but the mind is going real fast. And there's all these commentaries, there's all these scary voices, and sitting is a way to start to still that. But the big thing is you have always be a choice Don't think you don't have a choice. You do. You have a choice of being a victim in this moment, a victim of your own voices many times, a victim of everything they're telling you on CNN and MSNBC and Fox and whatever podcasts, uh, they don't tell you that you have a choice between actually becoming a victim and being a witness. And there's a world of difference between those two. It's a difference between being in the thinking mind all the time. And you know how many unfriendly, cruel voices are in there that have been playing your whole life. Those are like one other way to look at it in our culture is there's a lot of these inner videos. You have your own little YouTube station up there, and you're not in. You can turn them off. You can hit the pause button, and that's what we're going to learn with using the breath. Uh, you see, and there are a lot of victimization things, a lot of bad videos up there, and people are watching them. 2 million hits, but you have a choice. You can shift from that, which is in the thinking mind, to the heart, which is aware. It's awareness. To go from thinking to awareness is the big journey, moment by moment, especially when you're suffering. Okay, I'd also say, just as what I'm planning on doing is turning off most audio and video sources for this next run of a week. And you know, there's really not much you need to know now. If you do feel you need to know what's going on in the news, or read, read the New York Times or the Washington Post or Courier Journal, your local big newspaper, but stay off the media because there's just a lot of misinformation there and a lot of noise. There's rarely anything that you've heard anything that's brilliant or just totally crazy already. You don't need to listen to more. So just a suggestion. Okay, so the swinging door is an interesting image that I've had since for more than 50 years. When I started reading Suzuki Roshi's book, he starts out, Zen Mind Beginner's Mind starts out with chapter 1 on posture, learning how to sit like a mountain. And then chapter 2 is on breathing. And he talks about learning how to breathe like a swinging door. So I'm just going to read you a little bit from Roshi, and then we'll work with three types of contemplative breaths, sacred breaths. There's like 3 levels of the sacred breath that Yeshua was talking about, Jesus was talking about in the first beatitude. Or link back to that in just for a moment. He said, ripening are the humble. Okay, humble means you got your feet on the ground right now. We're sitting. We're connected to the earth. Ripening are the humble who know in their wisdom that sacred breath is their only possession. The only thing that can't be taken from you, the sacred breath. It's your only possession, and that in this poverty, you are fully empowered. Once you learn how to use the sacred breath, you can go through anything. They can never take it from you. I mean, they can't kill you, and or you might die, and in which case the physical breath is gone, but not the sacred breath, you see. You still have that. Graduating into whatever next realm there is, you still could be breathing the sacred breath because it gets a little freaky, I imagine. And so that's why the traditions train in the sacred breath. So here's what Suzuki said about breathing like a swinging door. And the swinging door breath is really the first level of breathing in Zen practice, but almost any practice. But what he has to say is, it's always stayed with me, and it's quite wise. He says, when we practice Zazen, and Za means sitting in Japanese, and Zen means meditation. So Zazen really means sitting meditation. When we practice Zazen, Our mind always follows our breathing. When we inhale, the air comes into the inner world. When we exhale, the air goes out into the outer world. The inner world is limitless, and the outer world is limitless. We say inner world and outer world, but actually, there's just one whole world. So he's already commenting on the sign that I always have here. Not true. The breath actually is your lived experience that there is no separation from the inner world of the breath, from the inhale to the exhale, except when you're afraid. When you're afraid, it's a, it's that, you stop breathing, you hold your breath. And there's a very old gene in us. When we were primitives, primates, who knows, man apes in the wilderness, and you heard a prowling big cat or something, you held your breath because you didn't even want them to hear your breath. You see, so some very old, when we get scared, we hold our breath. There's a movie called Waiting to Exhale. Some people have lived that movie. Holding your breath, not breathing fully. We say inner world or outer world, but actually there's just one world. We break heaven and hell, earth and heaven. We make all these dichotomies, but really there's only one whole world. And then he says something really radical. He says, if you think I breathe, the I is extra. Listen to that again. If you think I breathe, the I is extra. What we call I is just a swinging door which moves when we inhale and when we exhale. It just moves. That is all. What we call I is just a swinging door which moves when we inhale and when we exhale. It just moves. That is all. Yeah. So there's even this thing we call I, that there's when you're in the I, me, mine separate self, everything else out there is other, and can get sort of scary. That's where we have our survival operating system. We needed that as kids, because there was all these big people. We were just these little beings, and it was sort of scary. But the really scariest thing is just think there's I, me, mine, and then everybody else. That's the real deep fear. So he even breaks it down. We say inner world or outer world. Actually, there's only one whole world. And thinking I breathe is extra. I mean, your breath goes on. You didn't think, well, I better breathe when you're coming out of your mother. No, maybe you need a little pat or a little, sometimes you need to work with the baby to get that first breath to come. But after that, I mean, you're going to have billions of breaths and you don't think about them. Thank goodness. That's a great grace. Okay. So I just want to focus on 3 levels of breathing and actually practice them, and then we'll sit. Okay. The fact that we don't have to think about the most important thing in physical survival, it's just built in. The air comes in, the air goes out. And you don't really have to think about it when you meditate. You can be aware of it. It can be the thing that actually brings you out of the video in your mind, usually, all the craziness, down to the heart. There's a very interesting anatomical reason that your 2 lungs, where the air goes and comes back, is right. It's sort of embracing the heart physically. That's another beautiful thing. I mean, here's the one line in the poem that is a little bonus poem that will be in the notes. Maybe I'll put it out on a Monday sometime, but it's a poem I like a lot. It just came up this morning. This one line, I'll give you this one line. All there is grace and our resistance to it. This is the human dilemma in a single line. And if you can actually sit like a mountain, we have the sound, be still and know that I am God. Uh, there's something about stillness and silence and awareness. But I think this is like the central line in the poem. All there is grace and our resistance to it. Yeah, the and is the big thing where the human suffering comes in. True, there's fierce grace and friendly grace. There are waves of darkness and light, but it's all grace. When you come to that, and I'm not the first person to say that in any way or to have that experience, that even the most painful situations of loss or fear or despair that triggers that, we've all had all of those things. There's grace in that too. You just have to know um, how not to resist it, which is the hardest thing in the world. You know, all there is grace and our resistance to it. Well, you get the rest of the poem if you want it. Just send me notes. So let's work on the three levels of breathing and actually practice each one, and then we'll use the third level of breathing just as to practice as a preliminary to doing your sitting contemplation or your sitting meditation. But just the first level of sacred breathing is the swinging door that Suzuki's talking about. Just awareness of the breath as it flows in and out. Uh, that's a basic gear of sitting in meditation or in contemplation. Just bare awareness that the breath is going in and out. And I'll tell you something, because I've looked into the breath quite a bit. There's a whole book called Breath. And most indigenous tribes and peoples all over the planet think this. It's very common. The Iroquois in the northern New York, when the colonial guys were coming in, and then they start trying to take their land, and they were analyzing them. They were analyzing them. They made up different words in their own languages, but one of the common words that all the American uh, native cultures had for the settlers that were coming along and taking all their land was they called them mouth breathers. Very interesting. Mouth breathers, people who breathing in. And most native tribes do not. In breath always goes to the nose. And think about it. We have this incredible grace-filled filtering system in it. With the breath doesn't just go straight in; it goes through all these filters and nose hairs and all this. We have our own filter. When you're breathing in through the mouth, number one, uh, none of the toxins or whatever can get filtered out, and so that's most uh, uh, intelligent people realize that what Suzuki's talking about is, first of all, and all three of these levels of sacred breathing go in through the nose. That's how we're built. There's a whole book on it. Studying cultures, studying the skulls of, okay, and what their nose structure looks like as opposed to ours. We're mostly mouth breathers. And so if you can, when I'm just rolling through my meditation, I'm breathing mouth shut. So let's just shut your mouth now, if it's just sort of hanging open there, and let's just breathe for a moment, just through the nose, and just feel what that feels like. You can just notice the normal breath. You don't have to do anything special. Just notice the normal breath as it comes in and goes out through your nose. This is the swinging door. Just notice. And notice the temperature of it, maybe, as what it feels like coming in as opposed to going out. See if you're aware of a difference in temperature. I'm aware that it's cool air coming in and slightly warmer air going out because it's made its trip down through our body back out. But that's baseline breathing. That's the swinging door breath is, and and you don't have to do anything with it. When I first had a 10-day retreat with Thomas Keating when Century Prayer came in '95, I was up in Snowmass with him when I had my one uh, conference with Keating one on one. He was the real thing. I mean, the guy had some kind of chronic fatigue syndrome, and he just dragged himself down to make himself available to us. So he gave a talk, and then he would just take people one on one, and the rest of the time he was flat on his back. That was when he had chronic fatigue syndrome. But I was doing Zen practice at the time and exploring this contemplative practice that goes all the way back to the founder, Yeshua, Jesus, and basically the fourth century desert monks, and uh, and they use a sacred word, which we'll probably talk about, because you don't have to be doing Christian meditation to have a sacred word. The earliest folks that ever did any of this stuff, the Hindus, Om, breathing in Om, breathing out Om. So sound is always helpful, but I asked Thomas, I said, you think I could just use my breath to basically when you've lost, you're out of body running these videos, whether they're romantic or destructive or whatever they are, and then you notice that, well, then in centric prayer, you use a sacred word to bring you back, and uh, and that's lovely. That's help. But I'd say, well, could I just bring myself back to the breathing? He said, oh yeah, that's great. He was he wasn't doctrinaire at all. He wasn't doctrinaire at all. So that's what this baseline breath might be enough that all of a sudden you notice you're not in your body, you're out in some conceptual world, playing some video, thinking about something, which is not bad, but it's not what we're doing when we're meditating. So then you just bring yourself back and you can just notice the next in breath. Okay. And if just that baseline in breath can do it, and all of a sudden you're back in your body, you're back in reality rather than out here in some virtual world. Great. So that's just your basic one, and then you just continue with it, and you really don't have to, pay any attention at all to it. You're breathing. Just keep your mouth shut. You're breathing through your nose. That's great, and you're getting the best air you can get in, and as much as you need. The body knows. So the body's designed. Now, when you're crazier, as I often am, and I need something a little bit, I need like a deeper level, like in the nuclear alert system, they have DEFCON 1, DEFCON 2, they have different things they go to when things seems more critical. Well, I mean, I can be really crazy sometimes. I can be really digging this story I'm telling myself. I mean, really even be caught in some negative story where I'm torturing myself. I'm a victim in this story. Those can be pretty strong. You might notice it, but it's a little hard to leave it. And you notice you're coming back to your breath, and then all of a sudden you're back in the story, And so then I'll use the second level there, which I just call circular breathing. We talked about it last week. We've talked about it before. You just breathe in through the nose, and maybe a little slower and a little fuller. This is conscious breathing now. And then you breathe out through pursed lips, like you're blowing out a candle. A little, there's a 10-year-old who was somebody told me this about, it was a little niece telling her mother, or her grandmother, when grandma was panicking, she said, Grandma, smell the cookies and then blow out the candle. That's exactly what circular breathing is. Smell the cookies. You can't smell the cookies unless you're breathing in through the nose. Smell the candle, smell the cookies, blow out the candle. I don't know where she got that, but that's beautiful. That's smell the flowers. Smell the flowers too. Blow out the candle. And that fuller breath, that fuller breath. Let's just try that. Let's do a few breaths like that where you're breathing in a little slower and a little fuller through the nose. And then on the out breath, slow and full through pursed lips, like you're blowing out a candle. Do a few of those. Breathing in through the nose, a little slower, a little fuller than your normal breath. Breathing out through pursed lips, slow, full, until you've really got most of your breath out. Let's try one more where you really try to exhale now, but slow and full. Full inhale. Breathe in those cookies. And then on the exhale, out through the pursed lips. Really try to get all the stale air out of your. Yeah, that's circular breathing, and it's when it's known in all traditions too by different names. The guys who play the didgeridoos in Australia, those long things that are, they're doing the circular breathing to keep that going. And Seth Curry, the great, one of the greatest basketball players ever. Basketball is my second religion, and he broke his foot, and so he just couldn't play or even practice for a while. So he's in California, and he went to Stanford and worked with the breath guys who were in the book that I read, and they taught him how to do this kind of breathing when he was playing to build up. This is an endurance breath. That's why when Native Americans were running or whatever, they were breathing this way. I use this breath when I walk. I do my morning walk. I breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth, through the pursed lips. And it's very interesting. You walk and you notice stuff. You don't walk and think. You know the difference between a walk where you're just thinking. You don't see a flower. You don't hear a bird. You're up here. That's very easy. And when I notice I'm doing that, I'll just blow out the candle. That is exactly the actual literal meaning of nirvana in Buddhism, by the way. The candle is blown out. And that candle, from a Buddhist perspective, is the fire of kind of superficial egoic desire. Interesting. So that's something you can use when it's just normal swinging door nasal breathing, just normal nasal breathing. It is not strong enough to bring you out of the conceptual world, the video world, especially when the video is maybe the video is sort of sexy, a little hard to let go of, or really exciting. The idea in meditation: bring yourself back out of thinking to awareness, and awareness is of the heart. Again, it's why the lungs are right there by the heart. It's an unbelievable setup that we have. We don't even know. Now, the third kind of breathing we talked about last week, and I'm going to suggest we use it seriously before we, as a preliminary to just letting go of everything and going into the silence and emptiness of just sitting. And I call it the heart to heart breathing, but it can be, there's other titles. Yoga has this. If you take yoga, you probably know this breath. It's circular breathing plus breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the pursed lips, plus at the end of the in breath, you hold your breath for four heartbeats. And you'll definitely will usually feel your heartbeat. And then blow out the candle. Now that's even a stronger kind of centering kind of breath. And I'm telling you, when you're really crazy and when you are feeling overwhelmed or panicked, this is the breath to do. So let's practice this for a few breaths. Just breathing in slowly and fully through the nose, and then holding it for 4 heartbeats, and then breathing out slowly and fully through pursed lips. Let's do 2 or 3 of those just to feel what that's like. No hurry. Hurry is the problem. So really take your time with it. This last one we'll do together here. Yeah. Now, my object today was to give you those 3 conscious kind of mindfulness, sacred breathing techniques so that they're at your disposal. Now, I use the heart to heart breathing to as a preliminary. The Tibetans taught me about doing preliminaries. Uh, as a preliminary to just letting go of everything and just being in the silence and the emptiness of contemplation. And then I'll shift back to just first level swinging door nasal breathing. But I do that before that. How many? Well, I do 10. 10 is good for me. If you do 10 of those kind of breaths before you just let go of it, and then it'll I haven't found anything that really moves me quicker from the conceptual thinking mind down to the aware heart. And there's something about hearing the heartbeat that you're starting to align with it. So that's what I'm going to suggest we do today as a preliminary. But you can use it on the fly. You have these kind of moments, where something really shocking happens, or something really, you know, that just all of a sudden you're really stressed and you're maybe flooded with emotion, or just overwhelmed. Who doesn't feel overwhelmed lately? Well, then you could just sit and do 2 or 3 of these and see how you feel then. Okay. And actually, in formal sitting, if you ever make an intensive, uh, on February, I'm going to go to my normal centering prayer intensive, Loretto. Well, we sit a lot, and we sit for 30 minutes at a clip. 30 minutes walk, 30 minutes, and then bell, and then so we do an hour of meditation with a little walk in between. But at some points, you can definitely use this breath when you're starting to feel what I call RDB syndrome. You know that? Ring the damn bell. You just start going crazy. You have fantasies that the bell ringer has had a cardiac and they've died, and they must, something must be wrong here. Well, it never is. It never is. The centering prayer, Laura, one woman just got up from where she was sitting, ran across the room, struck the bell, and ran out. RDB syndrome. So it happens. It happens. And I had experience of a nun just screaming out in the Zendo up in Cincinnati at the Jesuit Center, "Ring the damn bell!" And then about 30 seconds later, the bell rang. And, it happens. So when you start to get the heebie-jeebies when you're sitting, you're thinking, well, Jesus, when are they going to ring the bell? Then you might have to go to this. Keep you from shouting out, keep you from running out of the room, and keep you from just at home with the screen off, you probably get up and go get a cup of coffee. Well, so notice that point where you're starting to get the shakes and the stillness is gone. You just have to move or you just got to get up and do something. Well, you can shift to this kind of breathing. And really on the fly, it's totally helpful when you feel like flooded. Okay. All right. Well, that's enough. I think that's enough for the talk here. So we can end the recording.